Hi, guys. Those who are joining me on YouTube and Facebook. Hello, hello. My name is Alina Sheltsova. We're going to be discussing immigration news, specifically Trump's administration plans to deport even more people, USCIS changes, and most common recent denials, when and why they happen. So please join me, like and share this stream. Don't forget to let me know where you're watching from. And of course, type up your questions so that in the end, we're going to be discussing things that you are worried about, right? Say hello, don't be shy, and let's start. So, can you imagine that DHS reached more than 500,000 people number in deportations already? And there are news that more than 1 million people self-deported out of the United States since Trump's administration took over. But this is not enough for them. And in fact, Trump's administration, it seems, is having plans on increasing the numbers, ramping up, increasing the enforcement. And what's happening, it seems, is that they're not happy with the way ICE field offices are working, that they're not active enough in deporting people. They're not meeting their numbers, quotas. Well, at least this is the information that was reported by several news outlets. And to meet those internal goals of 3,000 people per day, DHS says to bring more or different, rather, heads, leaders to the ICE field offices. Who are those people may be? Well, according to this news report, those people are going to be CBP officials, people who have experience working at the border with immigrants, quite different from internal operations of ICE. And these are the people who were arresting immigrants in Chicago and LA. As you may be aware, as you are aware, those arrests now are subject to federal litigation, and those methods are subject to federal litigations because they were very aggressive. In fact, together with people who don't have US citizenship or green cards, some citizens were hurt and arrested. So that doesn't stop Trump's administration a little bit, and they're going to continue their efforts in increasing the mass deportation, according to these media sources. Now, what I wanted to talk with you about is actually quite positive. If you recall, in the end of September, everybody was talking about asylum fees, annual fees, and people were paying them any way they could at that time, using, for example, EOIR portal if people were in immigration proceedings. Why? Well, because there was rumor and directives and regulations stating that certain fees must be paid, but there was no procedure as to how those fees were supposed to be paid. There was a lot of confusion among lawyers, respondents, and immigration judges. Nobody knew what to do. So people would go to EOIR portal and they would pay $100 as initial asylum fee, not annual fee, because there was no option to pay annual fee at that time. Well, as a result of federal litigation, the government acknowledged their shortcomings and they stated that indeed the portal was defective, didn't have this option. Now they're going to be fixing it. But the good thing is that they will be crediting everybody who paid that $100 as initial payment towards the annual payment fee. So your money was not wasted. It's very important to know that. All right, I think that's at least one positive thing that we have today. Also, starting from today, USCIS would no longer accept checks, either private checks, cashier's checks, or money orders for their fees. You can only submit authorization forms for your account to be debited or for your credit card to be charged or debit card to be charged when you are trying to pay USCIS fees. Very important. Why is it important? Because if you're submitting your application and you use a check, your submission will be rejected from now on, okay? Very important. So you may lose that priority date, you may lose the benefit that you're trying to file for. It's very important to remember that. Finally, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about most common denials. Scary topic for many immigrants. What's happening? What denials are basically increasing? And I would say that, at least in my practice, I've seen three most common denials recently. People calling me with this question. So number one, denials of Form I-751, removal of conditions from your green card. Those denials became very common, and typically it would happen because the government basically accuses you of not proving that the marriage was real. Very serious accusation. Very often it leads to 204C, forever life bar. And of course, any denial of Form I-751 causes you to be placed in removal proceedings. Well, the government has to do so. This is the law. It was not invented by Trump. It's a long-standing situation. Marriage cases. Adjustment of status in marriage cases due to misrepresentation or fraud that typically would occur when a person who entered the United States stated on their visa application that they were already married to someone else to boost their chances of getting that an immigrant visa. This is one of the topics that USCIS is on. They're screening those DS-160s. If this is your problem, don't think that it's just going to go away somehow magically. You will have to submit a waiver, I-601 waiver. And number three, extremely weird, revocations of previously approved petitions. So let's say a couple of years ago, you had a case, I-130, I-140, and the case was approved. However, your adjustment of status application was stuck. And guess what's happening now? Now, the government is trying to revoke that very ground for your adjustment of status so that you won't be able to proceed with it further. Very strange, very important to know that it can happen under USCIS practice manual, but now I feel that it's happening more often than before. And now, if you guys would like to, I will answer some of your questions. I hope you're all doing great. Let's see, guys, from TikTok, how are you doing? Thank you for sharing. Thank you for your gifts. Thank you for joining. Let's see what we have. Thank you for following, guys. Have a lot of people. All right. Hi, West. If I filed appeal on 2/19, maybe in 2/19 to UIR and still waiting, should I pay some fees by the new rules? Hi, West. Yes, indeed. If your application for asylum is still pending, you have to pay those fees. Correct. You must. If we are talking about asylum annual fee, right? Yes. All right, let's see, guys, from YouTube. Hi, Peter. Hi, Messiah. Can you apply for asylum after the 1-year deadline? Yes, you can. But success of such an application will depend on whether or not you can prove that an exception to 1 year filing deadline should apply to you. There are a few: change of country conditions, change of your personal circumstances, um, some other situations, loss of a principal or qualifying relationship with the principal, for example, and some other very specific conditions. But it's possible sometimes to win your asylum even if you missed your 1 year filing deadline. That's true. All right. Let's see. Ma'am, all foreigners can deport from America. I don't think they can deport legitimately everyone. That's just too many people, right? But will they try? Absolutely. That's exactly what they're trying to do. Hi, Veronica. My T visa was denied because I couldn't overcome my I-192. I have misrepresentation and 5 dismissed cases for violation of restraining orders 7 years ago. Can I appeal? Maybe adding an immigration evaluation. All right, so what happened here is this. When you file for the T visa, you have to show that you're a person of good moral character. And in certain situations, you are inadmissible or you cannot show that. So typically what you want to do, of course, is to prepare very well. But if that opportunity was missed, I would suggest that perhaps you would try to go with a motion to reopen. All right. Consult with your attorney. What is the best plan they would have? But if you're trying to introduce new evidence, you should go with a motion to reopen. All right. Hi, Arpit. If someone came to the United States with a valid 10-year green card at the age of 13 and now is 17, has no fingerprints and green card yet, is that a problem due to new entry and exit biometrics rule from December? If you came as a kid and didn't require biometrics, now you would have to do that, I believe, even if you're a green card holder. In addition, don't forget, once you reach 18 years old, you also have to register for selective service. Okay, but the rules of the rules who must register, published on USCIS website, so you can easily verify what I'm saying. Right? Hi, Bobo. Are 730 processed nowadays? Of course they are. Absolutely. Of course they are. Hi, Patel. Asylum second interview in 2025. I'm shocked. I'm not. They became very common, those asylum second interviews. So I'm not shocked. Just prepare very well to go over potential fraud issues. Hopefully, you have none. Changes in country conditions as well, right? So those are very important things to focus on, and focus on what was discussed the last time. Hopefully, you have asylum interview notes from your attorney, and you'll be able to easily identify the areas of interest that they had at that time. All right? Hi, Gore. I applied for I-45 and I-130 through my US citizen wife, but was pending asylum. While waiting on I-130 decision, I just got denied asylum and referred to court. What will happen to my I-45? I-45 now, if you're not an arriving alien, will be administratively closed, and you will have to renew your adjustment of status application in immigration court. Okay? Hi, Edwin. If your case was dismissed without going to court, what should someone do, please? Was it dismissed or denied? Two different things. If at the time of the Biden administration your lawyer closed your case with a dismissal, you don't have to do anything. But if it was denied because you didn't come to court, you will have to work with a lawyer to see how you can remedy this situation. A lawyer would need to know why you missed your court hearing, if there is any ground to ask for motion to reopen, for example, or sometimes for appeal. All right? All right. Hi, Messiah. I have maintained my status and applied my asylum after 3 months of falling out of my status. And I have a new issued warrant from back home due to political involvement and filed within the months. All right, so I guess that relates to the question about 1 year filing deadline that I think is going to be your grounds to try to restore your asylum filing deadline. Hi, Adam. How long does it take if I sponsor my parents to come? Well, if you're sponsoring your parents for green cards, it usually takes about a year, year and a half. All right. Of course, you have to be a US citizen. One who is not a US citizen simply cannot, even if they wanted to, sponsor their parents for a green card. Let's see if we have questions. TikTok. Hello, is there any update on I-730 for Afghan? Is there included in travel ban? I think we discuss it every time. I'm not aware of any travel ban for derivative asylees. Hi, Andrew. I just applied for citizenship in New Jersey. You think it can be any problem? I have a green card for 5 years now. Andrew, for me to answer your question, I need to know your situation. Why do you believe there may be a problem with your citizenship application? Have you had any arrests? You didn't pay your taxes? You filed based on a marriage? You got a green card based on marriage, but you don't live with your spouse? So I would need to know more about that, okay? Hi, I'm 806. After Bauer file, how much time take for work permit? All right, so VAWA by itself does not give you a work permit unless it's granted. Then you're going to get C31 work permit. You were supposed to file Form I-45 as well. And how long is going to take? Typically about 3 to 4 months, if everything goes well, right? Do you help with national security denial when 34 gives no information why it is denied? I can take a look at it, of course. You would have to have some sort of a denial to know that it was denied, right? And we can discuss who it was filed for and what that person's background is, perhaps, or a person who filed for I-130, what their background is. Hi, Gurpreet. After applying asylum green card, how long receive receipt notice? I would say recently, within the past couple of weeks, we started getting those receipt notices very, very fast. So hopefully you're going to get yours within the months, okay? Hi, why Nathan? What is a reasonable time for changed or extraordinary circumstances? Is 1 to 3 months valid? 6 months. There is a case law about that. Usually 6 months considered to be reasonable. All right. Hi, Marat. Can someone travel outside of the United States with green card if they had DUI 20 years ago and got a green card recently? Judge was aware of DUI and said it's been a long time and good moral character after 20 years, 42B. All right, so if the judge decided that it wasn't a problem, CBP or ICE shouldn't revisit that decision, okay? You will have to show the disposition, of course, and have it on you when you are traveling, all right? Let's see if you guys have more questions. We're discussing immigration questions today. All right. Hi, Edwin. Excuse me. I filed my asylum in 2022. Until now, no interview. When I try to check online, it says it's pending. What could be next? Well, if you have an affirmative asylum interview, depending on how you entered the United States, if you entered on a visa, the next will be an interview. All right. But if you entered on parole or without parole, you may find yourself in a situation when your asylum case is dismissed, and that's it. And there will be a notice saying that if you would like to have an interview, you will have to request it, a credible fear interview with ICE. Okay? So it depends on how you entered. Can we help with the work visa process? Yes, we can. Absolutely. Excuse me. If you guys would like to consult with me, have a full consultation, please reach out to my office. It is 917-885-2261. The number is displayed on YouTube and Facebook, and of course in my profile on TikTok. All right. Hi, Messiah. Yes, you can use those reasons. Whether they're going to be good enough depends on the evidence that you have to support them. All right. Let's see. Does having an I-130 marriage withdrawal affect my asylum claim? Well, it may, not your asylum claim, but it may affect your credibility and inadmissibility as a whole. You know, don't forget, not long time ago, USCIS published a memo about adjudication of marriage-based cases, but they did mention that issue of asylum filing as well. So they stated actually vice versa. They stated that if your asylum was frivolous, you will not be able to get marriage-based case approved in your favor, right? But I think it works both ways. So as long as you're truthful in your filings, guys, then you have nothing to worry about. All right, that's the main thing that you need to remember. Okay. Thank you guys for your gifts on TikTok. Hi, Khalifala. Can you please tell what is the maximum time for an approval SIJ to get a visa? For an approved SIJ, I guess. SIJ petition was approved. I cannot tell you what the maximum time is because it varies and it depends on visa bulletin. What you would need to do to find out approximate wait time is to go to Visa Bulletin and look at EB4 priority dates. Okay? And then you're going to have an idea as to how long you may wait for that SIJ visa available. Hi, Susaik. Is it okay to travel internationally if LPR green card holder received in 2024 but got a DUI from 2018? So you had a DUI in the past and it wasn't a problem for your green card, right? So you, as long as you disclosed the DUI at that time and it wasn't found to be an aggravated problem or any sort, then you should be all right. Just keep that certificate of disposition with you. I would suggest that you consult with a lawyer prior to you buying those tickets. Okay. Hi, Askan. I had I-130 interview and they said they will inform us today or tomorrow or may in a week. All right, so that's common. They're probably going to hold off on the decision. Sometimes you have to wait for a month. It's not a big deal. Hi, Alex Q. I'm already a US citizen, but always get secondary inspection entering the United States before Trump. It happens sometimes. Usually it happens due to past criminal convictions or if you ever reported identification document missing, then you may have that issue, okay? That you're called for secondary inspection. It's unpleasant, but the truth is that you are in the United States now, right? So you can contact, there is an office to contact actually about this and see if they can resolve it, depending on the issue that they accuse you of at the border or they're investigating at the border. Hi, Mega V1K. Good evening. any forecast about TPS for Ukrainians next year? Will it be extended for another year? I really do not know, guys. The way things are going, it seems that it should be extended, right? I don't want to be pessimistic, but the war is not over, so why would they close TPS? It just doesn't make any sense. But I guess we're going to see. Under the rules, within 60 days of the expiration, the government has to announce their decision whether or not they will be extending it. But it happens usually right before the expiration. Okay? All right, guys, if you have criminal charges in the past, and you are not US citizens, you should talk to an attorney prior to buying your tickets. Okay? Because if your lawyer says no, you're not going anywhere, you're going to waste your money if you already bought the ticket. All right? Hi, BANYC. Is it safe now who have asylee status? Yes, as long as there was no misrepresentation in the process and the government doesn't have any grounds to revoke your status, you should be fine. Hi, Catherine. I took my naturalization test and passed, but decision has not been made. I have no criminal background. It's all right. You know, sometimes it happens that you take a naturalization test and you're waiting for some time. What happens is that officer is going to review your entire immigration history and see if everywhere you were consistent. Even if you made mistakes, maybe there were minor mistakes, not a big deal, right? So they're going to make the decision after they review their file. Sometimes it takes some time. Hi, Real Amigo 777. You guys have the best nicknames, very creative. What to do if the judge was fired? And on EOIR website, it still says that the judge is going to be the judge for you. But we know the judge was fired. Nothing. Don't worry about it. What's going to happen is that right before your hearing, your date either is going to be transferred or you're going to be assigned to a new judge, maybe a military judge. As you are aware, if you're watching my videos, 36 new judges were sworn in. So that's what's going to happen. You're going to get yourself a new judge. All right. Can they change court date? Yes, they can. I have a question. Hold on. Where is your question? I have been more than 10 years. I was trying to apply for cancellation of August removal. My child has an IP. I have called court day on December, final decision. I live in New York, but I moved to New Jersey. So if I give a proof of new address on my kid's school, okay. So I'm trying to make out what is it's happening. So I guess what's happening here is that you moved from one jurisdiction to another. You must, under the rules, update your address with the court by filing a form UIR 33 within 5 days of your move. You must let the prosecutor know about that as well, right? And of course, the court is going to decide whether or not to move your case. If I were you, I would file a motion to move the case. Why? Because very often in these situations, you show up on the day of your hearing and the court is going to say, hey, listen, we don't have jurisdiction over you anymore because you moved. You're going to invest into preparation and then there will be nothing. So that's just my take on that. All right. Cancellation or removal, remember that there are rules about it. It's not enough to be in the United States for 10 years continuously. You have to accumulate those 10 years prior to service of the notice to appear or prior to any arrest that could have happened to you. So if you do have those 10 years, if your lawyer vetted you, you do qualify statutory for cancellation removal, then just make sure that they're not going to cancel the last minute on you, all right? All right. Hi, Patel. Can I apply for my widow mother visa to visit US if on pending asylum? And can you assist in the process? Oh, guys, what happens here is this. You do not apply for your mother. Your mother applies for her visitor's visa. Usually, very often, such applications will be denied because they see that you're here trying to ask for asylum and they think that your relative also is going to remain in the United States. And remember, for visitor's visa, a person must show that they don't have immigrant intent. However, if the person is truthful, if the person explains why they would like to visit you, and the government believes them that they will go back, then the visa will be applied. But make sure that there is no misrepresentation of any kind, okay? When that application is filed. It's very, very important. All right. Hi, PUBG Mobile. Do you have any update on draft of dignity law? No, unfortunately, I don't have update. Is military judges very angry? Are they very angry? No, I don't think they're very angry. Some of them, they do have legal experience, so that's good. But first of all, they're appointed by the government, so they will be acting. They should be neutral, but they're not going to be, that's for sure. With military people, typically they're very straight to the point, and if they see the point differently than you are, there is no room for an argument. That's the danger. That's how I would describe this biggest danger of military judges. Okay, once they set their mind on something, it's difficult to impossible to introduce them to a different, fresher idea. So that's why they're disfavored. Okay. Hi, why Nathan? My withdrawal notice says this does not prevent future filings from marriage. Does it affect my asylum? Your withdrawal notice, your wife's withdrawal, your spouse's withdrawal notice says. It can say whatever, but it says this. Every time you have marriage-based green card process that does not result in a green card, there is always a concern that the government would try to poke into it, trying to see what went wrong, why it went wrong, even if the case ended with a withdrawal or denial not based on fraud. All right, just have that in mind. Okay. Doesn't mean that 100% is going to be a problem, but it may be. Thank you, real amigos. Thank you very much for your compliments. Thank you, guys. Any approvals for green card asylum based? Yes, there are some, but most applications are still pending. All right, guys, I may skip your question because I didn't see it and it's difficult for me to find it. So if you are kind enough to repost your question, please do so, because the way it works with this streaming live services, the questions, they just sort of, if you've ever had your own life, you'll see that they're very easy to lose, unfortunately. On YouTube, it's easier to find them if you like send a little feed, they're gonna flash out before my eyes. That's how it's set up. But for TikTok, if you don't ask your question a million times, it's basically would be lost, unfortunately, if other people, if other persons are asking their questions too. Okay. Will an immigration evaluation be considered as new evidence for reporting a T denied visa or considered to reopen? It definitely is a new evidence for a motion to reopen, yes. Okay. Been in the United States since 2012, applied for asylum in March of 2023. Oh, March 2013. Okay, Vadim, what's your question? If you applied in 2013, it's time for you to be called for an interview. Aha, here we go. I have my asylum court date is next year. No criminal background. I have work authorization and working as a truck driver. If I'm stopped at a wait station where I is present, am I in danger? Are you already in removal proceedings? So what can they do, right? They can arrest you, they can put you into detention, but if you entered the United States with a visa, you will be able to get out of the detention as long as you're not criminally charged with anything. Okay? So it seems you said court date, it means you're already in removal proceedings. What is it that they can do worse than placing you in removal proceedings? You're already in removal proceedings. So I don't think, I mean, it's of course unpleasant. If you're detained, you're going to potentially, suffer losses related to perishable cargo and things like that. But in terms of what can they do, everything that possibly could have happened to you already happened to you. You are already in deportation proceedings. Detention, the likelihood of getting out of the detention depends on criminal history, how truthful you are with your address history, and your the manner of your entry to the United States. Okay, that's what it is. Okay, let's see. Hi, Sid, is it possible to request a bond release while detained by ICE and appeal the asylum application? Appeal asylum application. Appeal asylum application, like what happened exactly? Because if you're detained by ICE and you're in removal proceedings, if you're not subject to mandatory detention, you always can request bond. But if you are, then the situation is different. They will not set a bond, right? If you're subject to detention and judge doesn't have jurisdiction over the bond, but you can get on parole, that's a third variation that we can encounter. So not sure what happened and what exactly you're appealing, because now very popular. The government may invoke different processes. INA 240 regular proceedings, so expedited removal, or maybe you're in something and you referred as asylum, but it's withholding only proceedings. I do not know. Some people will be able to get out of the detention and some people will not. Okay, depending on their qualifications. I know one thing, that if under their rules you cannot get out of the detention, you can always try to go for habeas corpus petition in federal court. You are welcome, Vadim. So let's see, guys, if you have some questions. Hi, Pakistani Mina. How can I transfer my spouse's case from Afghanistan to a different country for a visa interview? There is literally only one process. To go through NVC, right? National Visa Center. Hi, my husband is on H1B. I'm a citizen, but I don't make enough. Can they sponsor themselves? So money legally earned can be counted, but to avoid possible complications, why don't you just have a joint sponsor? All right. You can just have a joint sponsor, guys. Hi, Manchester. If you guys would like to know our prices for different cases, just shoot us an email. It's very easy. office@shoutsova.com, my last name.com, and we're going to get back to you. Or you can call my office, 917-885-2261, and my secretaries, after checking with me, will be able to quote your price. Okay? Hi, Rokio asks, how long is Spedite 601? I guess how long does it take for I-601 to be approved? All right, so in the United States, if the file is in the United States, it takes about 2.5 years. If the file is out of the United States, it may take even 4 years. Thank you, Tomorrowland, for your compliment. Thank you very much. Hi, Yukiya Hadas. My husband moved out of the house and I did a withdrawal. He said he will deal with me. What? How is it he's going to deal with you? Listen, no threats from anybody should be tolerated, from immigrants, from citizens. If you are afraid, you have to ask for the order, restraining order, okay? Nobody should be threatening with each other, guys. You have to understand that in this green card process, the US citizen does not have to sponsor you. It doesn't mean that, there is a valid case there. Sometimes they don't want you, and that's fine. As long as there is something, maybe there is something more than that going on. If if a person says, for example, I will not sponsor you until and unless you do something, well, then it's different. Or they are using this process to control you. For example, they're saying, I will not go for an interview with you because or until or unless. That's different. But you cannot threaten your citizen to deal with them if they don't want to sponsor you. Okay? It's just crazy. And if it becomes very aggressive, please ask for protection from the government, from the police, okay? Because that those threats taken very, very seriously. And for your own safety, be you an immigrant or a US citizen, you always have to, make sure you're safe. All right? All right. Excuse me, ma'am, may I know what moisturizer do you use? I use a lot of the different ones. Yes, I want to use the same. I actually, you know what I find very that's I don't get paid for this commercial or however advertisement. The ordinary, it's very inexpensive line, and you can find it in Sephora, but it's very affordable, and they have amazing serums. I find the serums very effective and cheap. You don't have to spend a lot of money because I find that some luxury products that cost a lot of money, they're absolutely useless. Hi, Tosun. My mom does I-130 for me in January 2023. Until now, it's not approved. Tosun, how old are you? If you're over 21, the government usually is not in a rush approving your case, unless, of course, there was some history, RFE, or something like that. They're not in a rush approving your case because they know you're going to have to wait for like 6, 8 to 10 years, especially if you're married, prior to being able to use that petition. Okay? But if you're under 21, typically the process goes much faster. All right? All right. Thank you guys for your compliments. Let's see. Hi, Kalisi. Greetings. How long VAWA package receipts taking currently? Honestly, if you file I-360 by itself, it's going to take a week to get the receipt. But if you add I-45 to that package, it's going to take much longer. And I do not know why. I have no idea why it works like that. I guess something going on, however they're, dividing the workload. What is citizenship timeline? Okay, so if you are in New York within 6 months, if everything goes smoothly, you're going to get your oath ceremony. However, sometimes you may not see such a quick result. If you ask for an exception, medical waiver, usually such cases get stuck, especially now when government would like to verify and re-verify and investigate to see if everything was done correctly, right? Criminal background, issues with how you received your green card, and of course, if there is an investigation into your anti-American situation, that will last forever. So now when somebody comes for me and says, hey, I would like to file for citizenship, I go with them over every little possible thing that may become a problem, including social media, including, negative comments online, be it on your Google profile or Yelp. Maybe you're somebody who gives only 1-star reviews, and people may see it if it's discovered it's not such a good moral character, be it lawsuits, judgments. Some people owe a lot of money to cell phone companies or utility bills, or they don't pay some other bills. All of that these days may become an issue when you file for your citizenship. So please try to not have it. Okay? Very important. And of course, each circumstances, every person is going to have different circumstances. I understand that. But just keep in mind that it's best to not flash out your aggressive personality when you're filing for N400. Can I travel internationally as an LPR through asylum without conscious precautions? Could you travel internationally as a lawful permanent resident through asylum without? Not sure what the question states. Please let me know. Okay. Let me know let me know please what you mean. Hi Danielle. Told to pick up asylum result in 2 weeks. Interview done. Decision pending. Application pending. Okay. So go in 2 weeks and see what they're going to tell you. Very often they're going to call your lawyer before this 2-week mark, and they're going to say, "Hey, don't come in. We're going to mail it to you." That happens all the time. Right? So decision pending. Yeah, that decision pending. All right. We got our asylum approved. When should we apply for? I guess when you should apply for green card in about 6 months. Okay. Do you handle deportation and removal cases? Yes, we do. I love those cases. Not many lawyers do handle them professionally, but yes, we do. We charge money for it. Okay, we're not cheap, but we do handle those cases. They require some thinking. They require some pose strategy for certain situations. Experience. I have 17 experience in courtroom, so yes, we do. What's the waiting time for approval of EB3 I-45? I guess usual processing times, minimum 9 months after your priority date is current, right? All right, let me answer a couple of more questions before I split up for tonight. Hi, Amy. What is approximate time for I-130 approval green card holder files for son the 21? It was filed in July 2023, still nothing. Oh, I wouldn't worry about that because, again, even in this category, the wait time is 3 to 4 years. So I wouldn't expect them to rule on it fast. Sometimes it takes a couple of years. Probably soon you're going to get some sort of a decision. If everything is fine and you do qualify, you should be all right. Okay? You should be all right. Should I file within 6 months? Yes. After 6 months, since you got your asylum, you should file. Okay? Thank you guys for your nice words. Let's see if I missed any questions. If I find them, I'm going to answer them. Yes, we discussed the court. Processing times for I-730, guys. Well, in my office, they're no more than 8 months. So sometimes I do hear other lawyers complain that the decision may take 2 years. Thank God it never happened to me. May it happen? Of course it may. You can never exclude a possibility, but most cases are resolved within 4 to 8 months. Okay? All right. What do they ask at I-730 interview living in the United States? Security questions, how you entered, maybe poke at your qualifications, qualifying relationship, right? Anything they want pretty much. because they're admitting you to the United States at that interview, so you have to prepare well. But typically, people go, there are no issues with that. So take a lawyer with you these days, of course, and you should be fine. Well, guys, thank you very much for tonight. Thank you for joining. Thank you for liking and sharing the stream. Don't forget to subscribe and follow so that we're going to meet again. Stay updated, and I hope to see you guys soon.